Before we start, I want you to notice how your mind actually works right now. When a thought appears, does it come first in your native language and then get translated into English before you speak? Or does the thought appear and come out directly in English? If your mind already works in the second way, this video is probably not for you. But if your process looks like this, thought in your native language, then translation, then English speech, this video can help you change that process into something much more natural. Thought, then English speech. The key difference between these two processes is not vocabulary or grammar. It's what happens before you speak. And that starts with your inner voice. Your inner voice is the voice inside your head that speaks to you all day, every day. It's not just for talking, it's how you plan, react, remember, wonder, and argue with yourself. When you think, "What should I make for dinner?" That's your inner voice. When you react and think, "That driver is crazy," that's your inner voice. When you suddenly remember, "Did I lock the door?" or you wonder, "Why is she wearing a coat? It's so hot." All of that is happening silently inside your head. The problem for most English learners is simple. Their inner voice lives almost entirely in their native language. English exists only as an output tool, something you use after thinking is already finished. So every sentence has to pass through translation. That's why speaking feels slow, stressful, and unnatural. What your brain needs is not more grammar. It needs permission to use English internally, imperfectly. Your inner voice in English does not need to be correct. It needs to exist. When you start letting simple, broken English thoughts appear in your head, short reactions, basic descriptions, incomplete ideas, you are training your brain to think with English instead of about English. This is where visualization becomes critical. Many learners rely on words explaining other words. An English word triggers a native language word, which then triggers meaning. That extra step is what slows thinking down. But the brain doesn't naturally think in words. It thinks in images, scenes, and experiences. When you hear a word in your native language, you don't see a translation. You see a picture. You feel a situation. So instead of translating English words in your head, you need to connect them directly to meaning through images. If you hear "waiting for the bus," don't repeat the sentence mentally. Picture yourself standing outside, checking the time, feeling impatient. The English sentence should attach to that image, not to another language. This also applies when you study vocabulary. Flashcards are useful, but only if they connect English words to concepts, not translations. A picture, a scene, or even a memory is far more powerful than a definition. When English points directly to meaning, your brain stops reaching for your native language as a bridge. Finally, we come to immersion, but not the passive kind most people talk about. Immersion is not just watching movies or listening to music while your mind stays elsewhere. Real immersion means giving English a role in your thinking life. Your brain prioritizes what it needs. If English is only something you consume, it stays external. If English is something you use to process experience, it moves inside. This can be very simple. You don't need to move to another country. You can choose small areas of your life where English becomes the default. Planning your day, reflecting on a conversation, replaying a moment before sleep. These are powerful immersion moments because they force your inner voice to work in English. At first, your thoughts will be limited. That's normal. Limited thinking is still real thinking. When inner voice, visualization, and immersion work together, something important changes. English stops being something you perform and starts becoming something you inhabit. You won't notice it all at once. You'll notice it in quiet moments, when a reaction comes out in English without effort, when you think without translating, when English feels less like a subject and more like a place your mind can visit. And that is the real reward of thinking in English. Not sounding perfect, not speaking fast, but feeling mentally free. Free from constant translation. Free from hesitation, free to let thoughts flow as they are. That freedom grows slowly through daily use, and it's available to anyone willing to train how they think, not just how they speak.